Vikramji, do you want to
Okay,
record it?
Huh?
I'm sorry, I'm just asking. Go ahead.
Yeah, got it. You repeat the question, Harprasad.
Okay. Cognition. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't really understand that. Okay, when you see an object, book, you see the book. So you see the book. So you said the book is a vastu. So you get a vastu cognition. What is this is cognition?
Okay. Yeah. So that is the yeah. So what is cognition first? Cognition, as you rightly said, suppose I say Boeing 777. Suppose I say. Now something happened in your mind or not? You thought of an aircraft. I think you must have thought of an aircraft. I think it is 777, the one that got grounded. I don't remember the number now, but that's what I had in mind anyway. Is that correct, Vaidya?
747.
What is it?
747.
737 max.
737. 737. Okay.
Right.
So, Boeing 737, suppose I say. So everybody's thinking of that big aircraft, which was supposed to be so fuel efficient and so on and so forth. A lot of good things were said. And a few important small things were hidden from, from the awareness of people. And now it's all grounded. Now you have the cognition of this Boeing 737. Until I said it, there were other thoughts in your mind, but not the cognition of Boeing 737. Correct?
Yes.
Correct. So cognition happened. And we will continue talking, etc. And Boeing 737 cognition will go away from our mind. It's gone because there are other things you're cognizing constantly, and Boeing 737 may come back to you later when you recall what happened in the class. And but otherwise the cognition will go away. So you're right. Cognition means, in Sanskrit we use a word. It's called vritti. Vritti. That's why sometimes it's better to use Sanskrit words. Vritti means a thought form that of course happens in the mind. Where else can a thought occur? That happens in the mind, which is in keeping with the object intended, object perceived. Okay? Or said, I told you, I used a name Boeing 737. Immediately something happened in your mind. That what happened in your mind is a modification, mental modification, which reveals, which is in keeping with everything you know about Boeing 737. Some of you know a lot about this case and this aircraft, and you read all the articles about it. Some of you may actually be working for an aircraft company or working closely with Boeing, and you guys will know a lot more. But people like me have heard a little bit, bits and pieces here and there. I know a little bit, that's all. And the only thing I know is I suffered because I had to cancel some tickets and all that. That's all that comes to my mind when you say Boeing 737. So whatever it is, some cognition has occurred. Now, Boeing 737, for that cognition to happen in the mind, the existence buddhi has to be there. The is buddhi has to be there. Means you are saying, yes, Boeing 737 buddhi is. That is what you are saying. When you nod your head, when I say Boeing 737, what you're saying is, Boeing 737 buddhi exists in my mind.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Boeing 737 buddhi exists in my mind. Boeing 737 buddhi is.
Okay.
So we are separating out the two. We are separating out the Boeing 737 so-called object from is. That is came from where? Hey, that is was always there with you. You had it already. And it is just that is buddhi is apparently taking on a form of Boeing 737. Therefore, you say Boeing 737 is. Boeing 737 awareness is. I now recall everything about Boeing 737. Understood?
Yeah.
That is what is.
Okay.
It is the same as what you told in Tattvabodha. There is a cow, there is a horse. In physical form, when cow goes and when we see horse, so horse comes into mind. But cow consciousness and horse consciousness are always there, are same. And whatever the horse consciousness is same as cow consciousness.
Yeah, so so I think what you're saying is the same thing. So yeah, same thing in a way. Cow, when you think of cow, you have cow consciousness. The cow looms large in your head, in the buddhi. So cow consciousness. Then you shift and you look around here and there is horse. So cow goes away from the mind, there is horse. Horse consciousness. There we use the word consciousness. Correct. And so yes, cow is the same as cow consciousness is. Horse is, horse consciousness is. Because eventually we will see that existence is same as consciousness. Existence, the Sanskrit word is sat. Consciousness, Sanskrit word is chit. So sat is chit, chit is sat. This we will see further later. But yeah, so I think you are, Kadeshanji, you are recalling that.
So one more question. When there is no sense of hearing, the sound produced has no meaning. It is useless. Similarly, for space and the light, all are like that.
Can
That
you
means
repeat?
they are all asset.
Can you repeat?
You said just now that when there is a sense of when there is no sense of hearing, the sound is useless. The sound comes to one person's deaf person is useless.
Correct.
Correct.
And that means the sound is a sat. Similarly, space is a sat. Asset. Space is a asset. Sound is asset. And light is also asset.
Correct. Correct. So
because we always associate sound as anadi and light as anadi.
yeah, yeah. So there are these popular notions also there, and so Vaidyanathan here sent a message: 737 Max. That is the name of the aircraft, and in the example of that movie we gave, really, it's 16 frames per second. Mahesh ji says. Okay, so we'll come to the other question later. But yeah, so yeah, so sound is useless if there is no hearing. That is what you say. But that is not what I say. We are not talking about whether something is useful or not useful. We are only talking about dependence of the one on the other. That's all we say. Useful or useless, it all depends. For me, some music may be very useful. It calms my mind. For you, it may be boring. Okay, so uselessness and usefulness is anybody's guess. So we are
For
not
a deaf person.
So yeah, so correct. So, but I think I understand what you said. So that sense of hearing and the sound, which is the source or a source of sound and sound, let's say, are intricately connected with each other. One is actually not dependent on the other, even though we think. Hearing, my ears are here. Sound, there is an explosion, I hear. Okay, if I don't hear the explosion, you hear the explosion. So the explosion is not a function of my hearing. How can you say the explosion is a function of my hearing? No, it's not. Explosion is independent. My hearing is independent. Your hearing is independent. I hear it, you don't hear it. That's how life is. But you got to extend the example even further. You've got to talk about the entire sense of hearing itself. To establish a sense of hearing, you need sound. To establish sound, you need a sense of hearing. That is what we are talking about. That is where the dependence is comes out very clearly. Correct?
Yeah.
That is where the dependence comes out. One is useless without the other. Heads, when I say, heads means what? There is no heads without tails. There is no heads without tails. Head means what? Heads is dependent on tails. Tails is dependent on heads. Or tail and head. Correct? One doesn't exist without the other. The entire world of objects is like this. This is a very good homework to think about and analyze and see how something needs something else to establish itself. The glass, I have a glass. My mom gave me a glass of water and I drink the water. So is the glass, is it independent or not? Does it exist independently?
No.
Well, then immediately you have to think of steel and so on and so forth. So the so-called tumbler I talk about, what exactly is the tumbler? If steel also is an entity. And tumbler and steel are two different words. Two different words. First question to ask is, are they synonyms? You know what a synonym is, right? Synonym means two words which have identical meanings are called synonyms, correct? Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
correct. So two words which have identical meanings, they can't have approximately same meanings, then they are not synonyms. When they quote synonyms, they list a lot of words. And some of them are truly synonyms, others are nearby meanings. Okay, that is fine. But here we are looking at two words. Are they absolutely synonyms or not? Are they referring to exactly the same object? Tumbler and steel. I don't want to use the word glass. Sometimes they say, in the US they say glass, here we say glass. But glass can confuse you with the material glass. Therefore, I am not using the word glass. I would rather stick with the word tumbler and steel. Tumbler and steel, they are two different words. They are not synonyms. Correct? They are not synonyms. Therefore, I am staring at a tumbler and I am staring at steel. I am staring at two different things here. Two different things, if you say, then what? Then I thought there was one object. How many tumblers are there in your kitchen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tumblers are there in the kitchen. But right here, you are saying there are two things, tumbler and steel, in just one tumbler. So something good to think about. And by thinking like this, we will begin to, this is how appreciation of Satyam occurs. Slowly it occurs when we begin to recognize that Satyam. And so back to your question, that sound, the example we give of the sense of hearing and sound is to show their mutual dependence. Okay, Venkatesh.
The sound Asat.
Yeah, so exactly. So the minute you say one is dependent on the other, then it is asat. It can't be sat. Therefore, if somebody says this world was created by a sound, anadi, beginningless sound. Now, if I were listening to this, I would ask him, what do you mean by this sound? Are you meaning the same sound when that you're talking to me, I hear your voice? Is that sound? Is that what you mean by sound? Or do you mean something else by sound? I don't know. You tell me that first. That is what my question would be. Only then we can, because he may mean something else. That word sound means something else. We don't know. So these things we have to look into, Venkatesh.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah, Prasad, where are you? There you are. Yeah, you read that. That's better.
I understand the whole thing is isness is basically the consciousness and it is the existence. So I also understand that existence minus the part is still existence. Now, for the sake of discussion purpose, if I put from the dualistic understanding, normally that is the case with. So here, the easiness, the ease buddhi, what we are talking about, are these consciousness. If Atma, which is the actual, the real self, if it is the object of that easiness, right? Now, when we are talking of the tumbler, so that ease consciousness is coming with the tumbler. In other words, we are trying to mix or join that easiness with a pot or with a glass, right? So we are trying to join. We get a feeling that, from the dualistic point again, we get a feeling that we are joining two things. One is the easiness, which is the existence, to a tumbler. You see what I'm saying? So at two different orders, at two different levels, I'm trying to mix. So if we can understand this, I think I get the point, right? Don't you think so?
Correct, correct. So
I'm trying to make it clear that way so that it will be clear to a dualistic mind that what we are talking about is easiness. So we are trying to mix two things here.
correct, correct. So correct. So in fact, in the next class, I will. This is what a Purva Pakshi asks. Purva Pakshi means what? Somebody who debates, who challenges. You say something, and then he says, how can this be true? Like you're asking a question. How can it be true when something else is possible? So challenge, a debate. That's called a Purva Paksha. So Shankara raises a Purva Paksha. And Shankara, many Purva Pakshas he raises, which we are going to talk about next class. And one of it is this what you said is right, which is the Ace Buddhi is combining with a form called Tumbler, and Tumbler Buddhi is there. They are all combined, and they're so combined that you can't really make out what is what. And you impute the reality, absolute reality to the Tumbler. The absolute reality which belongs to Atma, which belongs to Brahma, is imputed, superimposed on the pot or on the tumbler. Correct? Yeah. So that is true. So I validate your observation. It is true. And later on, this Purva Pakshi will ask, how can these two things combine? Atma is one level of reality, and this pot is another level of reality, and how they can combine? Like that, he's going to ask. And I don't want to delve into it too much more beyond this, because next class there is a series of Purva Pakshas which we are going to look at. Okay, but you're right, that is a way to appreciate it. The combination of the Is Buddhi with the pot Buddhi or tumbler Buddhi, and absence of Viveka. Viveka means ability to separate the two because of ignorance, is what creates the confusion.
Guruji, Shiva here. We can ask a question.
Go ahead, Shiva.
How does this compare with the Buddhist concept of dependent origination, Guruji, where I think it's similar, but they take even the Eastness and Atmas and Anatma as also a dependent origination or independent co-arising, as they say, Pratitya Samutpada, if I get the word right.
So
it's similar to the asset that we discuss here, or how does it? I just wanted to insight on how does it compare with the Buddhist concept of dependent origination.
Dependent what?
Origination, dependent origination, or independent co-arising, as they say. Pratitya,
Independent what?
origination.
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 Yeah.
Okay. So, origination, dependent origination. Is that the phrase they use?
Yes, Guruji. Or independent co-arising. I think that's
Independent co-rising.
yeah. Sanskrit word, if I get it right, is Pratitya Samutpada.
Yeah, so independent co-rising, which means what? Two things arise independently of each other. Is that the meaning of independent
That
co-rising?
everything is dependent on something else.
Yeah.
And therefore it's a cycle.
Yeah. So Buddhist idea is also, let's say it is same. Same as what? Same as the fact that everything is mithya, and mithya depends on something else for its existence, and therefore there is something satyam. There is one satyam, and everything else, there is one water, and the entire ocean is nothing but water. All waves are nothing but water, all droplets are nothing but water, all tsunamis are nothing but water. Okay, this is common between Vedanta and Buddhism. Now, what is that satyam? Okay, I understood mithya and satyam, but what exactly is satyam? How do I have appreciated water wave, I have appreciated tumbler steel. Steel is the satyam of tumbler, and I can go further down. I can analyze further and say, yeah, it's only carbon and oxygen and other metals in the steel, copper and other things are there, or tin or whatever, I forget. I'm a chemical engineer, I'm supposed to know all this. And then, but then even those elements are atoms, and those atoms are something else. I appreciate that. But finally, satyam. What is that satyam? Vedanta says that satyam is you. Is you. Is Brahma for the tumbler, and for me the satyam is I. And can I be different from Brahma? Can the truth of me be different from the truth of the tumbler? No, it cannot. Therefore, aham brahmasmi. I am that same Brahma. This is what Vedanta is going to say. I am when I say that I. That existence. That Atma. This is where Buddhism departs from Vedanta. What does Buddhism say? Who am I? I am Satyam. But what Buddhism say? I am Shunya. I'm talking about the main. There are different types of Buddhism and all that. But the main Buddhism is I am Shunya. Shunya means what? What is Shunya?
Nothingness or the
Vaidya is saying this. So nothingness. I'm nothing. I'm nothing. I'm void. I'm absence. So Vedanta dismisses it by saying, even to say I am nothing, I must be something. To say I am nothing may be a profound statement, but I must exist to say I am nothing. And who is that? So that I am nothing is dependent on something. And so that something cannot be nothing. It has to be existence. It has to be awareness. It has to be attribute free. It has to lend its existence to anything that exists. If I am nothing, then I cannot perceive anything. Because everything depends on nothing. And if everything depends on nothing, then everything becomes nothing. Therefore, there is a big difference at the end. So Buddhism is an amazing philosophy. In fact, our Swamiji used to say that he doubts whether Buddha actually said it. The Buddhism, as written by his devotees, etc., has come out like this. And we have no way of saying what Buddha actually said. That question to the Swamiji had raised once. Because that what seems to be obvious to us is not accepted by Buddhism. So that is why we say that. So that's the main difference. What is the main difference? I am Satyam and I am existence. I am knowledge. I am consciousness, and I am complete. That is Vedanta. Buddhism. I am Shunya. My content is emptiness. I am nothing. I am void. I am Shunya. This is Buddhism. And so that is where the departure is big. But until then, all the disciplines, dhyana, meditation, everything is fantastic. Buddhism is, we respect the way they have developed their sadhanas.
I think Mahayana Buddhism come later, right? So it's possible, like Swamiji said, it need not be what Buddha said also. I mean, Mahayana Buddhism and, the various wings of Buddhism had come later. So possible.
Yeah, can you repeat that once again, Prasad?
No, I'm saying, you mentioned already, Swamiji said whether Buddha said so. So I think we can one way or other corroborate by saying that the Mahayana Buddhism, the Sunyavada and all came later, Nagarjuna and all. So it is not necessary that which has emanated from Buddha himself. I'm just hoping.
Yeah, you're right. The possibilities are there. We are not hung up on that. We don't highlight it, because when we say that, Buddhists may get upset. They can get upset. Who are you to say Buddha did not say it? And we are not saying Buddha did not say it. We are just speculating that this possibility may be there. And we need to be careful. We don't want to hurt anybody here. But that among us, we can talk about it and we can say that possibility is there.
That's good. Guruji, if I can just add a little bit. So my question was actually on the Buddhists take the eastness also, since that's what we were discussing today, as a eastness also dependent as a dependent originated entity, not as Satyam. So I just wanted your insight on that. And that is why they say it is anatma, because your previous birth, it's also dependent on something. So it evolves, it changes. And so the eastness is also dependent originated. So they call it something similar to Asat. So I think that's the core of it. I wanted an insight on that. Thank you.
Did easiness have an origination?
That it is not independent, that it is also dependent on.
Yeah. So if you say easiness is also dependent on something, then you have to say, what is that something? You have to inquire into it. Whatever you inquire, whatever answer you come up with, must be you. Why it must be you? Because you can't be separate from that fundamental thing that you have determined as what gives existence to isness. But the word is itself is existence only. So if you say isness came from something else, then whatever that something else is, must be you. So you have to find out what that you is again. And you can say consciousness. You can use a different word. Then you have to understand the relationship between consciousness and existence. The two words again, are they synonyms? They don't appear to be synonyms. Then they have different meanings. But the Shastram says existence is consciousness, consciousness is existence. Like that it says. So to say that isness also depends on something else means you are cognizing isness. You are cognizing isness. And we say that the existence is there, but it is Swatasiddha. It is me. And versus spot and other things which is dependent on that is consciousness, which is me. Okay, I won't go further in this satsang, but that speculation can be there and one has to think about it. Yes.
Thank you, Guruji.
I have a small doubt. Like sound, I'm Anil here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said sound is dependent on hearing. So is it that if you don't hear, but from science we understand it's a wave. So even if you don't hear, it may still be there, right?
Correct. That was the example I was giving now, which is suppose I speak and you don't hear what happened. But everybody, and you ask, wait a minute, is Guruji is he muted or what? And therefore I don't hear. Then everybody says no, we cannot hear him fine. So what? Hey, you did not hear, but that is not my problem. Sound continues to emanate. And the hearing also, you think you are able to hear, but somewhere there's a communication problem, some gap in technology gap is there, so you couldn't hear. But everybody else is able to hear. My source of sound is not dependent on your ability to hear or not hear. Correct?
Hmm.
That's what you're saying. Anil, you're saying that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Sound emanates independent of hearing. Yeah, so we know that. We agree to that. I'm talking about this concept of sound, this concept of hearing that you have in your head, in our heads, that's all there. How did you get that concept? How do you understand hearing and sound? You can understand hearing only because you heard something, only because there was a source of sound. That concept I'm talking about. How do you know there was a sound? Because I heard. Because you heard. If you didn't hear, you won't have the idea of sound. If humanity didn't hear, they won't have the idea of sound. So that way, the two concepts are intricately tied to each other.
Okay.
That's the establishment of sound, a sense of hearing, cannot be possible without taking sound into consideration.
Mhm. Okay, I understand. What do you mean by the concept itself of me hearing?
Correct. And you cannot establish sound without using the ability to hear. Both are intricately tied to each other.
No, but when we say sound as a wave, right? I don't need to really believe in hearing, right? I say, okay, the waves could still be there, even if I don't. For example, I can't hear things below 20 hertz. Okay, but that doesn't mean the sound doesn't exist at that below those, right? The concept.
No, but you are saying hearing. You're using hearing when you define sound. You're using sound when you're defining hearing. This is the problem. Suppose I say you define sound without talking about hearing at all.
Okay.
You can't do it.
No, sound as a wave I can do, right?
Sound as a wave you can do. What is the use of defining sound as a wave? What do you get out of defining sound as a wave?
That's okay. I may not get it, but I can still. So the sound existence of it may be there, right? Sound may be still there.
But it's all there because there is something called hearing. It's all there because there is something called hearing. Without hearing, nobody can find waveforms for sound. Think about it. This is something to think about. Without the idea of hearing, nobody can even look for a waveform for sound because sound itself doesn't exist. Because hearing is there and sound is there, both are established, we take it for granted. But really, they are two sides of the same coin. And then, of course, you can do research and you can do more and more things and you can create sounds, beautiful sounds, and you can improve the sense of hearing and technology improves and all that. All that is possible. But there is a dependency.
So with this, are we saying that anything which we don't perceive don't exist?
No, we don't say that. We don't say that.
Sir, Namaste Mahodaya. So this, Narasimha Prasad here.
Yeah.
This discussion on Satya and Mithya, it recollects me the thing on Vyavaharika Satya and Paramarthika Satya. So the Paramarthika Satya can be understood only with the right knowledge and the Vyavaharika Satya. So here hearing becomes the Vyavaharika Satya, knowing which we understand the Paramarthika Satya of the sound. Is that the understanding correct? Or?
So no, not really, not really. So you have used some technical words which I have not explained yet, and so I don't want to use those terms. So Paramarthika Satyam means the ultimate truth, and so we are not saying that hearing is ultimate truth of sound or sound is ultimate truth of hearing. We're saying that both are intricately tied to each other. One depends on the other. I'll give you another example. If I tell you sweet, salty, if I tell you these words have meaning. They mean something to you. You have this particular drink, it's very sweet. Without adding sugar, it's so sweet. Well, I say, it makes sense to you. Now, if there was only one taste, then we won't even need words for taste. Will there ever be a word for taste if there is only one taste? There won't. You need another taste, another type of taste, and then you have to distinguish these two. Salty and sweet. You have to distinguish. Otherwise, one word is just not needed. And salty doesn't mean anything to you unless you understand sweetness. Sweetness doesn't mean anything to you unless you understand salty. The concept I'm talking about. Otherwise, there is just one taste. And if somebody uses the word taste, how does it taste if somebody say, if there is only one taste, the question is a meaningless question. So it appears very independent, but the concepts are really very dependent. Yeah, think about it. Think about it and come back in the next class. Okay. So so Paramartha Satyam, you have attributed Narsimha to one of these two, and we are not saying one. Both are Vyavaharika Satyam. Both sound and the sense of hearing are Mithya, Vyavaharika Satyam. Vyavaharika Satyam means Mithya. For now, I'm going to leave it at Mithya. And Paramarthika Satyam is something else. Because one is dependent on the other, another is dependent on one, there must be something else that must be the Satyam of both these things. Correct?
Yeah, I'm not denying the fact that sound is dependent on something. It may be dependent on waves, a lot of things. But the doubt I have is like, is it dependent on hearing? It is mithya, that is okay. There's no doubt in that. But is it dependent on hearing? That is the doubt I have.
That's what I gave. That's why I gave you the example of the seventh sense. Seventh sense. So that seventh, the source of that signal which activates your seventh sense is not there. So all of us have lost the ability to use the seventh sense organ. We don't even talk about it. In fact, we say there are only 6 sense organs, including the 6th sense, okay? 6 sense organs. And somebody says, why not the 7th sense? It is there in the body, but you don't know it. Because that thing is lost. Whatever was there, that source is not there anymore. You can't disprove that, Anil, you can't disprove it. Correct?
Hmm.
They will say, the biologists will say, it is a vestigial organ. Like the appendix is a vestigial organ. They say this earlobe is a vestigial organ. I say earlobe is not a vestigial organ. Because you know what? It's very useful to me. Why? When my son misbehaves, I find those ears so attractive. I just pull him and then twist the earlobes. Very useful. Who says it's a vestigial organ? So, not a vestigial organ. But they say, so I'm saying this sense organ there could be a vestigial sense organ. Why? Because the source is not there. So there are these if you go to, there was this movie. I just came up with this example. This movie where It's an African tribe. I don't want to use the word tribe. Some village in Africa, and they found a bottle. They found an object. Correct? So some Coke bottle they found. For you, Coke bottle is not a big deal. You throw up 10 Coke bottles in the trash can every day. This man looks at the Coke bottle and it becomes a source of attraction in the entire village. Correct? What is the name of this movie?
Gods must be crazy.
The gods must be
The gods
crazy.
must be
The
crazy.
gods must be crazy. Correct. The gods must be crazy. One bottle, gods must be crazy. Okay. For you, what are you saying? These Africans must be crazy. That's what you're saying. Who is right? This problem will arise because you know everything about this object. For them, this object is just out of this world. Out of this world. Gods must be crazy. They just threw this thing here. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it is used for. Nothing. So the utility must be there. Only then the object makes sense to you. So the object depends on its utility. The utility depends on the object. This is what we are saying. That concept is so important. We have taken it for granted. And it appears as though both are independent. Yeah, in a way, both are independent also. I'm not denying that. But they are also dependent on each other. One bottle drives the whole tribe crazy. Okay? So yeah, let's think about it some more. Good. So I think we should stop now. It's 10:48 here in India.
Namaste.
So good. Thanks for all those questions, and thanks to everybody in India for staying up so late.